Three, two, one. What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Here the Spear, presented to you by NoleGameday.com. We're here live on a wonderful, fantastic Wednesday pre-Thanksgiving Day Eve right here before we see Florida State's last game of the season this upcoming weekend in Doak Campbell Stadium. Whoa. Come on, man. It's our last time we get to preview a game of this Florida State football program
Again,
in 2024.
Thank God.
This is it. This is it, baby. This is it's kind of crazy. I would say the season flew by, but no, that wasn't the case. And yeah, a lot different than 2023. But we're still here. We're going to preview this game. We've got a handful of things to talk about, too, as well throughout this episode. Mike Norvell naming Luke Kromenhoek the starting quarterback going into this game. We'll see two true freshmen start with Florida's DJ Lagway also hitting the field Saturday evening. We got Conrad Hussey and Jalen Early getting some, I would say, season-ending injuries. There's only one game of the season left, but we'll get an update there from Mike Norvell on those two guys. We're talking a quarterback flip, D-Lou, flipping an Oklahoma quarterback commit over there from Venables and the Sooners. We'll talk about Kevin Sperry and that. And we're also going to jump into a decommit from Florida State in the running back room going over to the Gators. It seems to be a trend as of late. Before we get into National Signing Day, we're going to talk a little bit of Mike Norvell's message into recruiting and what he's telling them. And then a handful more things. Urban Meyer took a little shot at Florida State. And then we're going to give our score predictions, best bets, and we're going to talk a little bit of Florida State basketball before we get off of here. But
should be a lot of it.
Yeah, with me this evening is Dustin Lewis, our editor-in-chief at NoleGameday.com, and up ahead is Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer. Gentlemen, how we doing?
It's a fantastic week. So much to be thankful for.
Listen, man, the vibes are high over here. The basketball football seesaw is in full effect. The vibes haven't been this high on a basketball team in Tallahassee in like 4 years. I am feeling amazing, even if we have to talk about this football team.
4-game win streak.
Yeah, I mean, FSU basketball, is it back? Maybe we can clickbait there and get some of the basketball crew. I see them throwing a lot of engagement to you on Twitter. It must be nice, VZ. All FSU football had to do was just have historically one of the worst teams ever. That's all it had to do. And now you're getting all your engagement. People are interested in basketball. So you went Leonard Hamilton and they were playing. Still learning some names, obviously.
It is really insane, though, that theory continues to hold up. Like they both can't be good at the same time.
It really is insane that it just continues to happen. The few years Florida State basketball has been great. The football team's been terrible. And when the football team's been good recently, the basketball team's been terrible. I've never really seen anything like it.
Why can't FSU be like Alabama or like Tennessee, where you have both programs that are looking good on both the basketball court and football side? Guess we'll never know. Definitely not as a person covering Florida State football and basketball. But yeah, before we get started, as always, you can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. If you're on YouTube right now, hit that like button, hit subscribe too. Gaining a lot of subscribers there and a lot of viewers. Appreciate it. We're going to have a ton of content here the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be a very busy podcast. We might have to jump on here and do a handful of quick hitters for you guys too. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any content coming out on YouTube. Let's get started. Florida State, Mike Norvell, we heard from him on Monday. Let me just note real quick. D-Lou, no practices, no media availability for practices this week. This is the first time, if I remember correctly, this is the first time since Mike Norvell in his 5 years in Tallahassee, this has happened where it's complete lockdown and there's no media availability at the practices. Yes, there's some times where we got to simmer down on things that we're reporting and the practice observations, yada, yada. But D-Lou, you didn't get to go out there and see what this team was going to bring this upcoming weekend on Saturday. Mike, hush, hush.
I'm not upset about the decision. Honestly, I think I've seen enough of this Florida State football team practicing. But, I mean, yeah, the access has been a little bit less than, normal the last couple of weeks, at least, since we've had credentials dating back to 2021. I'm not sure exactly how everything worked out during 2020 with COVID and the pandemic, but yeah, normally pretty accessible. We get to go view those 2 open practices weekly. And I mean, that continued on bye weeks as well. But obviously this third and final bye week earlier this month, the media wasn't out there. And then, yeah, they decided to go ahead and shut things down this week. And, we really didn't get that decision until Monday morning. So, I mean, we were preparing for a normal week, but hey, a little more extra downtime. I can't really complain.
Little switch up from Mike. But yeah, during this week, though, he started off the week telling the media that he is going to run with Luke Kromenhoek starting this game. It was on the depth chart, and he was asked from a couple of media members about that decision and his thoughts also of that game that he played in against Charleston Southern. He said, I thought he managed the game really well. He was able to locate the ball where he needed to, and he got some of the one-on-one throws, and he was decisive with that. I thought there were a handful of plays where you felt him. I'm not going to say take a deep breath, but he really did. He played with rhythm, stayed on time, and executed well. Mike said that he also has been liking his progress that he's been taking throughout the year. He said he's playing with more confidence as the time goes on. He's made some big strides over the course of the season. He's definitely a player with impressive arm talent. He can throw the ball all across the field. He's done a good job extending plays when things break down or when he needs to move. He keeps his eyes downfield and can definitely hurt you if you don't stick to your coverage. And that's something, we saw during his recruitment and whenever we were watching film on Luke as well. That arm talent is something that stands out first and foremost to all of us. But seems like there's some strides being made, and we were kind of talking about it in the production meeting. I mean, this was Charleston Southern. It was not a good team. It's an awful team that Florida State was facing. But I think, too, you take what you can get off of anything growth-wise while you're also dealing with that Florida State offensive line, which still had some trouble against a piss-poor FCS defensive line that they were facing. And you saw some moving up in the pocket, saw him kind of rolling out, doing some things, and put some throws on the money here and there. And you got to take what you can get. And it's a young kid that's still learning and getting into his groove and trying to get a lot of experience in his first year. But, this upcoming weekend is going to be a whole different animal. But he is going to be the starter on Saturday evening.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision, because I thought going into that Charleston Southern game, even though they were listed as co-starters, and I think on the show, we didn't come out and say it, but we expected Luke to start in that game. I thought Brock would see a good amount of snaps as well, but he obviously didn't get thrown in there until the fourth quarter when only had a couple of drives to work with. And then after the game, Mike Norvell talked about, he kind of wanted to roll with one quarterback for the majority of that game, which is what he did with Luke. And, wasn't pretty early on scoreless after that first quarter, but then we started to see him settle in a little bit after that shovel pass touchdown. Obviously found Ja'Kai Douglas for Florida State's longest offensive play of the season, and then was able to get a third touchdown pass in there as well. Didn't commit any turnovers, did a good job of utilizing his legs. I think, obviously the staff wants to see him slide a little bit more. He was definitely going after contact a lot of times, and he's going to have to learn to protect his body, which is something that he mentioned after the game. But, obviously there's a ton of potential, a really high ceiling with Luke Kromenhoek because he only started for 2 years at the high school level. Coming into Florida State, was an early enrollee, able to go through spring practice, starting to learn the offense and concepts, things like that. And he even missed some time with injury back then. He's struggled a little bit with injuries this season for a couple of weeks. So, it still has been impressive to see him take these steps week by week. And like you said, Logan, it came against a pretty poor Charleston Southern team, but it's good to see that true freshman have that type of performance, build some confidence, and hopefully that can lead to Florida State being a little bit more productive on offense in his final outing of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think too for him, just getting down some of these basics is the bigger thing, and it's so tough. Like I was saying earlier, with an offensive line that is just garbage. It's been that way for both Brock and Luke having to go through this, and when DJ was out there as well. But the one thing that stood out to me, and we talked about it in the instant reaction, he got that ball out to 10 players on this game last Saturday, and I thought that impressed me. Distributing the ball out to an arsenal of a whole lot of other guys, both in the running back room, tight end, and wide receiver. I thought that was something that stood out to me. But he's going to learn a lot this upcoming Saturday night. Going into a big rivalry game, but on the other side of on the other team with Florida, DJ Lagway will be out there as well. So, those two actually have a really good relationship. I think they were roommates, right, at the Elite 11 camp.
Yeah, 2 summers ago, when they were both rising seniors, they got the chance to go out there and compete at the Elite 11 finals in Los Angeles. And after the win against Charleston Southern, Luke was speaking about Lagway to the media and mentioned that they were both, they were roommates at that event. And, now roommates to rivals. I was kind of going back through it. It's a little bit hard once you get into the 90s and stuff, but I couldn't find a singular game of a true freshman versus a true freshman in the rivalry. There have been Lagway is going to be the 5th true freshman for Florida to start against Florida State, and Luke is going to be the 2nd true freshman since at least 2000 to start against Florida. James Blackman obviously stepped in back in 2017, so got a little bit of history going into this rivalry here with these 2 young quarterbacks who, could potentially be the face of it for the coming years.
Also, during the Monday press conference, got word and update from Mike Norvell on Conrad Hussey and Jalen Early. 2 guys that saw a lot of, playing time. Really, Conrad Hussey more of last year, and then we saw him, of course, this year too, getting into the rotation at the safety position. We thought very highly of him going into the year as well. And Jalen Early, thought we'd probably see a little bit of him this year, but end up seeing more just because of the rotation of offensive line that Alex Atkins likes to do. And also, too, it just wasn't great of a product. So he got a lot more burn. But Mike letting the media know that those 2 underwent surgeries. He said those both guys are out. They had procedures done that will keep them out for an extended period of time. It'll probably start a little bit into the off season, hopefully to get some work maybe late spring. We'll kind of see how all of those go. But he said they're counting on these 2 guys for the future, and they've already started the rehab process, and they'll be fine. But I thought it stood out to me. I put out a tweet that he was not on the depth chart talking about Conrad Hussey because he started off that season, all of us thinking very highly of him and thought we'd see that next big step of, what you see usually at a Florida State safety. There's always someone that back there usually who stands out to you. And now someone that Conrad Hussey brought to the table. But those 2 undergoing some surgeries. Yeah, it's the last game of the year here with UF, so nothing too crazy here, but got to hope that they can have a good recovery and see what we can get out of them in the spring potentially later.
Yeah, definitely disappointing news to see those 2 underclassmen go down with injuries. And I'm not really exactly sure, but I'm guessing based on Norvell's quote, he's meaning late in spring practice or some kind of timeline like that. So we'll continue to monitor it throughout the offseason, and whenever we have some availability to try and get some more updates on those 2. But Jalen Early, 2nd highest graded player on Florida State's offense behind Jalen Lucas, who didn't play very many offensive snaps before being lost in the 2nd game of the year. Highest graded offensive lineman, obviously. He took probably a bigger step forward than any of us anticipated. Ended up making starts at guard, at tackle, stepped in at left tackle off the bench in a couple games. So he was a very useful piece for Florida State this season, and wasn't necessarily expected to be so when they had so many other veterans in front of them. And then, like you said about Hussey, a little bit of a sophomore slump, going into the year when we were talking about the safety position and the defense as a whole. I think we all agreed that the ceiling, was raised if he could reach that potential. But there just wasn't enough consistency from snap to snap, and there were some tackling issues, mistakes in coverage. So, hopefully he'll be able to rehab from that injury this offseason and get to work, and then rebound on the field in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Let's jump into another one here. Let's jump into some recruiting. Do we want to go with the good or the bad first? Good or bad? VZ, since you are
Rip the
recruiting
Band-Aid off.
expert.
I don't know that either is that great, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, dang. Jeez. See, now this is what happens when basketball. I can't wait till basketball. They'll get humbled quickly.
Yeah, probably.
Yep. Let's go with the quarterback commit first. Let's go with the good first. How about that? Switch it up a little bit. Florida State flips 4-star Oklahoma quarterback commit Kevin Sperry, and this one kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. It felt like a surprise.
It definitely came out of nowhere.
Yeah, were you shocked by this? I mean, definitely wasn't in the drafts ready for that one to go, D-Lou.
No, not even a name that's been on my radar for, going on 2 years now.
Yeah. 6'1", 200-pound quarterback, ranked as a 24th quarterback in his class. Right now from Texas, but he previously played at Oklahoma. He actually, in his junior season, completed 131 passes out of 191, had a 68.6% completion rate, threw for well over 2,500 yards, 31 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and also runs the ball quite a bit. 93 rushes, 563 yards, and 11 more scores on the ground there. And then this season right now, currently, which he's still playing, right? They're still in the playoffs, I do believe. They're in Texas.
Yep, they just won their most recent game on Friday night.
Yeah, man. Currently holds an 8-3 record there for Geyer High School. 2,026 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, while running for 642 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. What are your thoughts on this commitment here? Because there was another name that we were keeping an eye on that, was it going to be Wisconsin? Was it going to be Florida State for the other prospect at the quarterback position? But this one comes out of nowhere, and it seems like Florida State had maybe plan B or C here. And was this plan B or C potentially?
Yeah, I guess this is why you always keep the relationships in recruiting. Kevin Sperry, the last time that he was on campus in Tallahassee was back in 2022. And he came through that summer 2 years ago, worked out at a camp. That's when he picked up his offer from Florida State, returned, took an unofficial visit for FSU's win against Florida that year in Doak Campbell Stadium, and then came back a couple weeks later while he and his family were down in the state of Florida for a trip. So, he's got a pretty good relationship with the coaches. Obviously, knows how Mike Norvell and Tony Tokars operate. Been up close and personal with them a couple times. Got a chance to throw for them at that summer camp. So there's definitely some familiarity between the two parties. And whenever Carter Smith started trending to Wisconsin after that official visit, it seemed like FSU had to do a quick pivot. And Sperry, obviously was a member of Oklahoma's class, and they've been struggling this season, and seemed like it was the best move for both parties because Florida State, they obviously can't risk going through the early signing period without another quarterback. Because right now you're entering the offseason with just 2 scholarship guys in Brocklin and Luke Kromenhoek. And, we expect Florida State to go and probably grab someone out of the portal, but they needed to sign another high school prospect as well, because you never know what can happen in this day and age of the transfer portal. But a dual threat quarterback, I think when you look at his skill set compared to Tramell Jones Jr., this is probably the guy that you're thinking that Florida State wants to go after, a little bit more dynamic on his feet, can throw it, can run it. I think I saw in that win, in that playoff win on Friday night, he had a rush where he was recorded over 21 miles per hour. So it seems like he does have some speed to him. You mentioned some of his stats. I've got the updated ones. He's at 120 carries for 787 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground, 4 games of 100+ yards, averaging 6.6 yards per carry. So with the current state of Florida State's offensive line, you're going to need someone like that. There's going to be some retooling this offseason, but I'm not sure if that big of a problem can be entirely fixed before 2025. It's probably going to be a multi-year deal, when you look at the current situation. So Florida State, they're going to need these type of guys who can not only throw the ball, but get after it on the ground as well.
Someone dynamic that can move around. That's how any quarterback should be coming into what Florida State has placed out there at the offensive line, but could be saved for whichever coach ends up taking the reins there. But could this be just a little baby Baker Mayfield right here? Is this what we're seeing right here? Come on, we got to get all the clicks. Come on, little Baker Mayfield action. That'd be fun. He runs. He's a physical guy. You go jump on his Instagram, and he definitely has a little fire under him, which I like.
You're the one that covers Baker. I mean, are you seeing it?
Oh, that's what I was saying, man. I see it on the film. He's got a little swagger to him. So, yeah, you got to bring in a quarterback in this recruiting class, nonetheless, because you just don't know what's going to happen there with Brock and Luke and the transfer portal. And I think things lean to where you're only going to have one of those guys going into 2025, and got to bring a guy in. And interested to see this kid still got his season going on, could take them back to another state championship, not to another one because it's a different program, but he could go to a second consecutive state championship as a quarterback. And that to me impresses me.
Yeah. I mean, he's a winner.
I like winners. Now we got to go to the bad stuff. This is not winning right here. This is not winning. Definitely for Florida State here. Florida State loses running back commit 4-star Byron Lewis, flips from the Seminoles to the Gators. The trend only continues while the Florida Gators are hot at the moment.
They took both the Lewises.
I know, man. The Lewises are gone.
They took Byron Lewis and they took Daniel Pierre-Louis.
I know, man. I think Napier's got a thing for Lewis's. But, yeah, this is number 17th ranked running back in the 2025 class, 5'11", 200 pounds. Rushed for 1,100 yards this last season, 11 touchdowns on the ground, 17 passes for 229 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground from the American Heritage young back. Interested to get your take on this one, D. Lou, because I'm seeing all this chatter on Twitter, and I think people just want to get mad at everybody. Which, when you go 2-9 like they're at right now, it does allow for some extra criticism. But some people, I think, going after Coach Yak. Yes, this is his room. Yes, you don't want to lose commits, and you definitely don't want to lose one flipping over to the Florida Gators. But, brother, Coach Yak's the least worry for me. I think people are going a little too far in this. But still, nonetheless, yeah, they lose running back commit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to come out and just call out Coach Yak, but, I mean, this is a pretty big loss for Florida State. Now 0 running backs committed in the 2025 class. I don't really think that they have a lot of traction with any other running backs ahead of the early signing period. Maybe they're able to pull out some kind of last-second miracle with Chroma, a guy who they've been involved with for quite some time. But just with the outcome of the season, I don't know that that's a very likely scenario for Florida State. So, I mean, this is a big one, especially because Lewis decided to flip over to a Florida class, and he's now the 3rd running back commit for the Gators. I mean, he could have been the sole signee at the position in Tribe 25, and, obviously decided to go over there and join Tremel Jones Jr. and Daniel Pierre-Louis. Now 3 FSU commits or former FSU commits have flipped to the Gators in about the last 2 weeks or so. So they're kind of going, stealing some guys out of Florida State's class here, just with a week to go before the early signing period opens. So it's disappointing because, I mean, Lewis was one of Florida State's top commitments in this class. I think you mentioned his season stats at American Heritage. He had a pretty good senior year, and he's someone that Florida State obviously invested a lot of time into to land in this class, one of their top targets, regardless of position, in 2025. And to have another guy, which I think we just talked about it last week or the week before, how there's so many recruits over the years that have left this coaching staff, at the altar, essentially, right there between that period where they're expected to sign with Florida State during the early signing period, leading up to it, whatever you have it. Once again, you've got another talented recruit hopping off the board, and it's a little bit worse because he's going right over there to join your rival.
Yeah, no, it certainly stinks. Stinks. The good thing about at least the current state, not in the recruiting class, but Florida State do have some studs there in the running back room and a lot that you do like in there. But still, nonetheless, though, you would like to bring in reoccurring talent in that running back room.
Yeah, I mean,
you want to, because how Florida State utilizes them too, because you usually see two running backs, maybe three, and sometimes on Saturdays, they kind of is a rotation. And Mike Norvell's class is not just where one guy kind of carries the load for a full year or 2 years. This is a heavy amount of rotation that runs in that backfield in this offense.
Yeah, and I mean, as you've seen, a true freshman, if they're able to pick up the offense, I mean, they're not going to be afraid to put you out there. Obviously, Florida State, they've gotten a heavy dose of Cam Davis this season when he's been healthy. Seen a little bit of Mekhi Danzy out there. Samuel Singleton seeing more time in his second year with the program. But, I mean, the reality is, Lawrence Toafili's last game is on Saturday. Roydell Williams, he's going to be able to redshirt, but I'm not sure that it's a certainty that he necessarily returns to Florida State. And then Jalen Lucas, very dynamic athlete, but we're going to have to see how he recovers from that leg injury. So, I mean, right now you're talking about it seems like Isaiah Holmes has another year of eligibility. We'll see if he decides to, stick around, or if he decides to test the transfer waters to search for a larger role somewhere. Cam Davis and Mekhi will be entering their second year. You'll have Singleton going into his third year. But, the reality is I don't think that you necessarily have a single, proven guy right now. You still have to see more out of all those guys who are expected to return to your running back room. So there's certainly a spot for an elite high school recruit or someone for the transfer portal to come in and make an impact.
Real quick, CJ Campbell, he's entering the transfer portal from FAU. He ran for almost 1,100 yards down south.
No, he didn't.
1,092 yards, 13
total
touchdowns. Total yards. Damn. Never mind. Don't want him. Get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. I love me some CJ Campbell, man. I do love me some CJ Campbell. Oh, come on. But yeah, he had a great season there for the FAU Owls. Mike Norvell's having to do a lot of recruiting stuff. So he was on RG3's podcast back in October when Florida State was 1-5, and talked a lot about how changing the message and trying to turn things back around for the program. And a lot of that is going to have to do with recruiting and these relationships. He talked a little bit about what he's having to say to some of these guys. He said, I can't guarantee that every day is going to be 75 and sunny, but I can guarantee who we are, what we're going to be about, and where we're going to challenge guys to be on the field, off the field, classroom, community, everything in the building them into the man I know that they can become. He said, if you're willing to sign up for that, well, you might have a play where you get knocked on your butt, or you're going to jump on your ass up and get better. That's who I want to be around. I want to be around those guys who are going to inspire others, who are going to be the spark, be the solution, the ones that are going to be the ones that run out and go and become all that we can. I've got a lot of confidence that we've got those guys, and we've got them coming too. So, like I said, this was back in October. RG3 released this episode, last week. So certainly a little bit outdated. And so when talking about, and quote, we've got them coming too, some of them are leaving at the moment. But still, nonetheless, he also brought up to Florida State going 13-0 last year, brought up some guys too that have been successful as rookies in the NFL, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But, the recruiting message is one that I would just love to be a fly on the wall just to hear what that has to be, just because of what it has always been under Mike Norvell, is the climb to get back to where Florida State as a program should be. And you got close to it. You want to reach that national championship caliber place that FSU should be at, but you don't get into that college football playoff. But now having to hit a full reset, the biggest reset almost that Mike has had to do, it's interesting to start hearing these messages, and I'm interested to see too, Dustin and whenever the rest of the guys are out there by the more, hearing some of these recruits talk, and just to get a gist of what that is sounding like right now, because it is an interesting place for not only Mike to be, but also to understanding what staff is out and the new staff coming in and how that message reflects with those relationships.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to kind of adjust that message this offseason. I mean, obviously, the climb is still going to be the program message for the most part in Tallahassee, but it's just got to be adjusted a little bit, because it obviously seems like there are some things that aren't clicking with the amount of guys that we've seen depart from Florida State's class throughout the season. And, obviously the losses are piling up, coaching changes have been made, but still to have your quarterback who's been committed for that long flip, even if it's maybe not the biggest loss in the world for Florida State and some of these other guys that have jumped off the boat, it's hard to see, because this recruiting class as it stands, sitting around, I want to say number 44 in the country, and we're not in the summer anymore. We're a week from the early signing period. A lot of this stuff is done. I know Florida State, they're trying to make some last minute runs at guys, but we'll see how likely some of that stuff is as we get a little bit closer to next Wednesday. But right now, I mean, this is stacking up to be by far the worst recruiting class that Mike Norvell has signed at Florida State, that Florida State has signed, period, in, I mean, decades. So something's got to change. I mean, the 2026 class right now for FSU is still looking pretty good, top 10 in the country, but they definitely have to look in the mirror, re-strategize a little bit, and we'll see what they're able to do over the coming months because, Florida State, with the way that this is looking, they're going to have to be active during the February signing day as well. I mean, this is a scenario that's going to need to be addressed here quickly these coming months.
Yeah, no, that. Now, when was the date previously for whenever early signing day was? I forget what date that was.
It was more towards that like second to third week of December. It's been moved up by a good amount of time this year to be right there, following the regular season before the conference championship games.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm just thinking of what Florida State has to do. So they're on the search for 2 coordinators. I mean, already put in that perspective is not easy to do at all. Usually whenever this is going on, when you're looking for new both sides of the ball coordinators, that's usually because a whole new staff is coming in with a new head coach. But Mike Norvell is staying, but he's got to find 2 guys, and he's got to be able to try to recruit, but also doesn't have confirmation fully, not that we know of, or not set in stone, of course, because a lot of these coaches are currently still coaching for their programs and could have a lengthy postseason as well. So the timing of all this does not help at all with anything. And it's definitely a really sticky situation that Mike Norvell and a lot of their off the field staff and, Florida State's athletic director Michael Alford, there's got to be a lot of strategic planning here for this game plan of trying to salvage anything and also try to go and grab recruits for this class. But it is certainly a little worrisome, in my opinion. It's a little worrisome.
It's not an easy way to operate, especially when you've got a 5-star offensive lineman committed who does not have an offensive line coach at Florida State right now. It's hard to be that guy and, be comfortable signing with a program you don't even know who's going to be your position coach, let alone your offensive coordinator in Tallahassee. So, I mean, we'll see if Florida State's able to get some of these moves, I wouldn't say done in the next week, but enough so where maybe they could inform some of the recruits of which guy they're expected to bring in, or out of these 3 guys, it's probably going to be one of them, something like that. But for this to be the first year where this is happening, where it's moved up, it's terrible timing for Florida State to have to be making all of these changes at the level of magnitude that they are having to do.
Yep. It's crazy. Absolute craziness. Real quick, some quick hitters on the recruiting front. I thought I'd note this because it's pretty funny. I don't know, I laugh at this kind of stuff. But hey, 2027 wide receiver recruit Travis Hunter visited Florida State this last weekend.
I wonder
This is
who
Travis
he's related
Hunter's
to.
brother.
No.
He's related to Travis Hunter.
Well, I wouldn't have even guessed.
Ain't that wild? Isn't that crazy? Young guy here, but in the 2027 class, not yet ranked on 247 Sports or anything. 5'7", 140 pounds. But undersized, kind of like his brother, but has recorded. I don't have his stats on here, so I'm completely lying. I don't know. Do you have his stats by chance, D-Lou?
I don't have him pulled up.
On Travis Hunter, you don't have his stats. You don't have Travis Hunter's stats right there on your desk. But yeah, he visited Florida State this last weekend. And then too, I wanted to mention an FSU. I almost did it. I didn't say it. NFL legend Larry Fitzgerald. His son got offered a scholarship from Florida State. He's a 3-star wide receiver. Devin Fitzgerald in the 2026 class already holds some offers from Pittsburgh, Arizona, Kansas State, Minnesota, Washington State, and others. But 6'2", 185 pounds, and is ranked the number 4 recruit in Arizona in the 2026 class. So, hey, if he's got anything like his pops, man, 11-time Pro Bowler. I loved watching Larry Fitzgerald with the Arizona Cardinals.
It's exciting, but I will say he's already got that offer from Pittsburgh. So who knows?
Yeah.
You might want to follow in Dad's footsteps.
Legacy. Could go the legacy route for sure.
But Travis Hunter, if you really want to know.
I do.
Sophomore wide receiver at Effingham High School. He's caught 36 passes for 496 yards and 6 touchdowns this year. Had a season high 6 grabs for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns back in October.
There we go. Maybe not there yet like his older brother, but he's got any kind of those abilities, his older brother's. Is he going to win the Heisman? Is Travis Hunter going to win the Heisman? Beezy says no. We haven't heard from you all night. Beezy, go ahead and tell.
Ashton Jeanty or bust.
You think so?
I think it should be Jeanty, but I could see the national hype, making it be Travis Hunter and the Deion Sanders effect. So wouldn't surprise me, but it'll be a highway robbery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. All right, here we go, gentlemen. It's Florida State versus UF time. Well, actually, hold on. We need to do NFL Noles actually, because I say we do some NFL Noles first before we get into the fun parts of this. You got something to say, VZ?
I'm just going to see if you mentioned the guy I'm thinking of who had a good game this week.
I don't want to talk about it. That was so long ago. That felt like a decade ago.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah, no, let's talk about that first. Jameis lighting up the Steelers in the snow on Thursday night.
He didn't light me up.
Nah, he beat the Steelers. That's lighting them up.
Me up. First off, I didn't know we were going to be in a blizzard. There's number one there. Number 2, Arthur Smith. I'm back on your ass, you mother. Not only do you screw me in bets all year like you did in 2023 because I'm an idiot and I bet on the Falcons, but then you come in and you be my offensive coordinator. Let's just say, all right, things are clicking better. That's fine. But we didn't even prepare for nothing in that game at all. You piece of – it's Thanksgiving week. Got to keep it cool here. But, yeah, we lost. But you know what? We lost to Jameis, and they most – like Jameis Winston and a blizzard against my Steelers. And
it was
if
great
it's going to
content.
be a loss to somebody, I'd rather it be Jameis.
It was great content, especially Jameis yelling for someone to jump off sides. That's the funniest thing I've seen a quarterback do in like a decade. That was so funny. But it's just Jameis being Jameis. Gotta love to see it. But no, that's not who I was thinking of before you reminded me of it.
Who are you thinking of? Go ahead.
Shout out DeMarcus Walker for the Chicago Bears, who lit up my Vikings. I don't know exactly how many sacks he had, but he just felt like he was all over the place the entire game. And it was good to see him play well, even if it was against my team.
D-Walk, baby. DeMarcus Walker. Yeah, he's having a good season. I'm thinking Mario Edwards, aren't I? I'm thinking Mario Edwards, who got suspended. But Mario Edwards was having a good start to the season, too.
Don't put that on DeMarcus Walker's back.
Yeah,
I'm not. But here, Jameis Winston threw for 219 yards in a blizzard and had that incredible rushing touchdown there. The content was awesome throughout the entire game,
Insane.
pre-game to post-game to everything, and NFL is loving what they're getting out of Jameis. But yeah, that was a wild game to watch, and like had so many roller coaster rides, and I thought we were coming out of it, but we didn't come out of it with a dub, and Jameis was doing snow angels on the field afterward.
And starting a snowball fight, which was
amazing.
It was amazing.
Oh,
can't dream up a better Jameis game.
Okay, let's calm down. 2013 national championship. Shut up. Let's talk.
That might have been better.
Shut up. I'm gonna come get that Achilles, buddy, and that's not gonna be a partial tear anymore.
I'll smack you in the head with the boot. It's a heavy son of a bitch. I'll tell you that.
Whoa! It's Thanksgiving week. Watch your language on here.
Son of a
kids watching. All right, Braden Fisk is going off as well right now. Here, the Spear alum, 4 total tackles. This was on Sunday Night Football, right? Yeah, against the Eagles. Mm-hmm. Correct? Okay.
Correct.
4 tackles, a sack, and he had a PFF grade of 78.4, third highest on the Rams. And then 2, I believe his sack number is tied for the best in Rams history, or is the best in the amount of games that he's played. I think is maybe the best.
I think it's
11 games played is the best number in Rams franchise history. So Braden Fisk absolutely balling, and 2 Jared Verses as well. Like those 2 are killing it. He had 7 total tackles in the game and 4 solo. You already talked about DeMarcus Walker there. VZ, 5 total tackles, 2 quarterback hits, and a sack on your team.
He played well.
Say, we got to get Braden back on the podcast. We already had him on once, maybe another appearance. That'll just bump him into like Hall of Fame status.
Yeah. Jalen Ramsey continues to ball out there for the Miami Dolphins. He had 4 total tackles, 2 TFLs, and a sack. And Renardo Green locked down Nardo. He had a PBU and 5 total tackles for his game with the 49ers against Green Bay, which they got their butts whooped there, but it seemed like he did what he had to do on his side of the ball. But yeah, the thing with Jameis, glad it happened. I got to face him again one more time before the season ends, and we're going to get our revenge. And TJ Watt, I was saying this, I don't think on here, but I did tell him to cool a little bit. I DM'd him, said, don't tear up Jameis too much.
You DM'd him. Get out of here.
It's a 180 from here on out, baby.
Get out of here.
Go get his ass. I need these wins, man, to secure that AFC North top spot. I can't have Lamar Jackson take that from us.
Man, the only way the Steelers are beating Jameis in Pittsburgh is if he gets distracted by the towel waving.
That might
all I'm going to say is he's got some good history in that building, though.
Yep, he does. Only threw 1 incompletion, right?
I think it was 2.
Yeah, but Kenny Shaw said there was only 1, though. He said it didn't count. So he caught it. So, yeah, no, he does have good history in there, so I might be a little screwed. Who knows? But, yeah, good stuff. Great content. That's all. I mean, I need content at the end of the day, and there was plenty of content to work with, so I'll take what I can get, I guess.
Do you have the Jordan Travis update?
I do not have that on here, but that was earlier today from, I forget his name, but the coach for the New York Jets. I think that's their offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. I don't know how to say his name.
Jeff Ulbrich.
Yeah, Jeff Ulbrich today announced, not really announced, but just said in their presser that they're not going to have Jordan Travis active. I don't know what to say. He's dealing still with the injury recovery.
So you don't have the tweet pulled up? Yeah.
No, I'm trying to bring it up.
I've got it right here. Just basically, the New York Jets head coach revealed that Jordan has had some setbacks, I guess, in the rehab process, and unlikely that he'll be off the non-football injury list during the last 6 regular season games for the Jets. But they do still believe that he has a bright future. So, hopefully we're just over that mark where it's been a year since he suffered that season-ending injury at Florida State. Hopefully just as more time gets away from that injury, he'll be able to get back to full strength and hopefully be out there and fighting for his professional career this offseason to be on that active roster with New York.
Must have been one hell of a setback, because I remember we were talking during the NFL draft season that he was hoping he could perform for some teams, leading up to the draft. And that was like 7 months ago. So for him,
we did see that video of him throwing and moving around a little bit though. So yeah, I do wonder, like you said, what happened there? Like, what was the setback?
I know it sucks, man. Because if you look on Jets Twitter, they've looked at Jordan Travis being potentially that next guy. They're over the Aaron Rodgers stuff. They've got Tyrod Taylor, but I think that was just a 1-year deal. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know what the contract is there.
I think it's a
2-year one there. But they still look at Jordan Travis as the future, and they loved what they saw from him the last few years at Florida State. And I do wonder what went down for Jordan Travis, because it did start getting interesting where we didn't get to see updates on him out there on the field, performing or doing anything at the Jets practices this year. And, really hope that things can turn around for him and can get to being active, because we know what kind of player he is on the field, off the field. I'm sure the Jets organization love him, and Ulbrich, the Jets interim head coach, said that still thinks there's a very high future and bright future for Jordan Travis. So you got to hope things can turn around. Not expecting it's the Jets, and I think I saw a lot of the Jets Twitter too saying we don't need him out there anyways. Don't throw him out there and ruin him like we do with all the rest of our past quarterbacks with our history. So I'm in the same boat with them. Just let him get fully recovered, and
honestly, trade him,
get him out. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Get him out. Get out, please. I say, there is a place in Pittsburgh. If Russell Wilson, things don't go, Pittsburgh was interested. Pittsburgh was one of the teams very highly interested in Jordan Travis's abilities, but hopefully he can recover. Good guy, and things will turn around there for him. Both he and, Jermaine Johnson coming back and recovering with their injuries as well. All right, Florida State versus Florida preview, gentlemen. It's our last preview of the season on the football field, because we are going to talk a little bit more basketball. If the team, is doing pretty decent, we won't go too crazy. But football-wise, this is it, gentlemen. We've made it. It's the last one of the year. We will not have a postseason game. Sucks, but it is what it is. And it's time to go ahead and old Yeller this 2024 football season, gentlemen. What? That's got to go bye-bye. It's got to go night-night.
It's been bye-bye for 3 months.
It's got to say sayonara.
You had to take it out back and shoot it, though? You couldn't have been nice about it? Just smother it with a pillow?
Smother it
no. Even those are too nice.
Jesus Christ, man. Good Lord. But yeah, here come the Gators. We talked about Lagway, and that's definitely an impressive young quarterback that they have there for the Gators. But coming off of two wins that are feeling pretty hot on with LSU and then beating Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, this team has shown fight. They're competitive, and I think it's being led off of that energy and the juice that they have there from DJ Lagway. And we wish that we could say the same over here on FSU side, and it's just not the case. And we get comments on our YouTube about, wish we could be more optimistic and, positive and stuff. And I feel like we, out of a lot of shows covering Florida State, we stay pretty optimistic as much as we can, but we've got to be realistic at sometimes too, and not just spew out BS on you. This team is not a great team. Florida State is not a great team, and this is going to be a very, 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 very hard game to win, in my opinion, because of just what we've seen from Florida this season. And they will fight and compete in games, and their coaches give them an opportunity to win games, where it just has not been the case this season for Florida State. Gentlemen, you have the floor. What are y'all's thoughts on this game ahead on Saturday evening? Prime time. You knew we were going to get prime time one last time. Here we are.
Like you said, Florida, they definitely got that edge to them. And I think you've got to give Billy Napier some credit, because coming into this year, there was no certain conclusion that he was going to be the head coach by the end of it. And, he's obviously done enough to get that public support from the administration and now Florida with one of the toughest schedules. I mean, probably the toughest schedule this year and maybe one of the toughest schedules in college football history. I mean, six ranked opponents. They're in a stretch right now where they've played 5 of 6 ranked opponents, including, like you said, those upset victories against LSU and Ole Miss, where their defense really seemed to click a little bit, and you start to see Lagway take a couple of steps forward. So this Gator team playing better than I thought they would have. When we were talking about this back in July and August, and it would have been probably a little bit sweeter if Florida would have lost last week and they're coming into this game having to fight for bowl eligibility, and FSU would have a chance to return the favor that the Gators gave them back in 2021. But, I mean, regardless, this is a rivalry game and, a chance for Florida State to end things off on a high note. But like you said, it's going to take a lot of fight and a little bit of luck for the Seminoles to win this one.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Florida's defense has done a pretty decent job forcing turnovers all year. Pretty much guaranteed they're going to turn over at least once in every game. It's going to depend on if Florida State can turn over Florida's offense, which Florida State's defense, as we've noted a lot the last few weeks, has not been able to turn the ball over. We actually saw 2 turnovers last week to almost double their season output for turnovers. It just hasn't been Florida State's defense strength. Granted, nothing's been a strength for this team. But in Florida's losses, they're averaging almost 2.5 turnovers per game on offense, whereas in their wins, they're averaging less than 1. It's really going to come down to that, and I don't think Florida State's going to be able to turn Florida over. They just haven't been able to do it all season. And Florida has 3 really talented running backs, and we've seen what talented running backs can do to this Florida State defense. So it's going to be a tough matchup. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring one just because I don't really think rivalry games are for the most part. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Florida State to get a win in this one.
And to your point, real quick, that interception by Ashton Barker against Charleston Southern, that was FSU's first pick since the victory against Cal back on September 21st. And the two fumbles recovered during that time, one which was also on Saturday, those both came on punt coverage, not even on defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things have to go in Florida State's favor here. One thing that's not going in our favor is our best bets. We've only won one. And in a parlay, there's been some legs that we've won, but not in our parlay last weekend because I don't think we expected Florida State to score that many points. But we found out real quickly how awful and garbage Charleston Southern is. But here we are.
I couldn't believe it.
Wow, it's already up to 16.5?
That just jumped. That just jumped, actually.
I was about to say, I just finished my preview, I don't know, 2 hours ago, and it was at 14.5. So now I got to update that.
Yeah. Yep. No, yeah, it's now at 16.5 in favor of the Florida Gators. The over/under at 45.5. I don't think they have. Yeah, we have no players in here. Dadgummit.
But we do have our first drive punt. Give it to me.
Yep.
What's the odds at?
You think even with Kromenhoek in there, they're going to punt?
Yes. It's the drives one. Yeah. What's it at?
I do like your optimism there, D-Lou. Hey, if they come out like they did in the second half against Charleston Southern.
Okay, minus 175?
Yeah. Look, I was expecting it to be a lot worse.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was plus before.
No, it's been minus since.
It's starting to get into the minus lately.
It's tough.
Last couple of weeks.
I forget what game it was, but a few games ago it started being in the minus.
What about Florida? What's Florida's first drive going to be? They're all in the plus here.
Field goal.
I was thinking field goal too.
Or actually, punt is plus 1.
No, I was thinking field goal as well. D-Lou and I are on the same wavelength there.
Oh, we're definitely going to lose then.
Yeah. It's never a good thing.
Yeah, let's not do that then. Let's go back to popular over here. What about the spread? Do we want to do an alternate spread?
I would take Florida's points at the original spread of 14.5. 16.5 is getting a little too dicey for me.
I'd take Florida up to 20.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Jeez.
I'm not saying I'm against
Go to
taking a
YouTube
16.5,
comments.
but
YouTube comments. I didn't say it. I didn't say it was Dustin. Go to his Twitter. Get him.
Hey, sorry.
Don't worry.
According to Nole GIFs, I'm ranked number 1. So I'm trying to finish the season off right.
And also the people that have been supporting this podcast for a while know how much I hate the Gators. So I'm not doing this out of fun. So
who's the lead on this podcast though?
Me.
That's all that matters.
I would say technically Dustin then. If he's number 1 overall.
Well, no, overall though, I'm number 1.
Well, we're tied.
And yeah, we're tied exactly. So someone's got to pick an upset.
Go for it, buddy.
Someone's got to do it. I'm gonna go with 13.5 here. I'm gonna shave that down 1 more point from the original 14.5 on the spread in the Gators' favor.
I would happily take the under though, just in general. I don't know how Dilo feels about that, but
we could do alternate total points, and I'd go to 48.
My score prediction is close, but it is under.
So I don't even see the reason to move it.
I'd go to 49.5 under.
But I could.
Yeah, we're gonna be getting plus. Yeah, we're hardly getting anything.
I'll go 45.5.
Logan just goes for the safest bet.
You have to. You have to. I just need beer money. $10 right now gets you $37. Anything else in here? First scoring play for. Oh, what are we talking about? Oh, is this gonna? Can we add this?
Will they score a touchdown or a field goal?
Nope, can't add it. Of course, the one that is the likely one we can't even add in there. Anybody in the chat give us any suggestions?
No.
No one in chat. We're just the betting idiots here. I just bet ourselves away. Florida State total points is set at 14.5.
Under.
Dustin's going over on that for some reason.
No, I'm not.
Oh. Yeah, I'm going under too because that's not my score.
One game didn't fool me.
Nope.
No, that doesn't do nothing. I ain't doing nothing. I ain't adding that. I think that's all we can add. At this point, you just can't add much because there's not a lot of options to go with. So we'll go here, and we're going to put $10 on it. Actually, give me 15, get to 50. Yeah, 15 for 55 sounds good. So punt, first drive result for Florida State. Florida spread minus 13.5. We shaved it down a little bit, and then alternate total points to 45.5 under.
I'd like to see you actually place the bet.
We're in Florida.
Why did we take the alternate 45.5 when the spread's already 45.5? Why not just take the regular spread?
It's the same thing.
I'm just
I don't think it changes anything.
I know. I'm just wondering why we selected that option.
I'm gonna see if it does anything. Nah, don't do that.
It doesn't do anything. I was just,
I really wanted to go to 48.
That was the OCD in me going, what are we doing?
Score predictions time.
Unfortunately, Dilo has to go first, even though he's number 1 on the board.
Yeah, I mean that's
trying to keep his lead.
He earned this. He earned this for himself. He gets to go first and show us what the right score is going to be. Show the entire beat. He's taking this is in front of the entire beat.
I wanted to hear your guys' predictions first so I could figure mine out.
No. You got yours set in stone. Let's hear what you've got here in the last game of the season. This is our last score prediction. Last one.
Last one until August. Unless we're going to make a prediction for the spring game.
No.
We've made enough jokes. After this next podcast, like after this instant reaction, I'm erasing 2024 as much as I can. And it's going to be all full of optimism and positivity.
It's good to hear.
Yep.
But man, one good game against the worst FCS team I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't really change my opinion of this Florida State football team. The offensive line, like you guys kind of talked about throughout the episode, they still struggled at times pretty heavily against Charleston Southern. Gave up 3 sacks and 8 tackles for loss against an FCS opponent. And now you've got a Florida defense coming in here, like Austin said, who is very opportunistic, looking to force turnovers. They rank top 40 in the country in sacks per game and tackles for loss per games. I mean, they can get you behind the sticks. So I think it's going to be, unfortunately, as much as we want to see an upset in the rivalry this weekend, I personally think it's going to be more of the same from this Florida State offensive line. And they're just going to struggle to get anything going throughout the game. And then as far as Florida on defense, I think the main thing for FSU is to limit the big plays, because that's really how the Gators make a living. I think they've got over 50 passes of 15-plus yards and around that many rushes for over 10 yards. So, they're really looking to put together those long plays, just long gains, things like that. We'll see what Florida State's defense is able to do. But, I mean, they gave up 200 passing yards to Charleston Southern, who was struggling to pass the ball against FCS teams. So, in the end, final score prediction of the season, I'm going to go against Florida State once again. I've got the Gators 34, Florida State 10.
34-10. Okay. Total points, 44. Am I up next?
I said I was right at it.
Yeah, you're right there. Risking it for a biscuit. Yeah, I mean, everything you said is what's in my brain of what Florida State did this last weekend against a pretty poor opponent. It was good. You hope that you can ride off of some momentum, some good vibes in the locker room. The rock, VZ, you didn't want to see it, but that rock was broken. That Charleston Southern
shattered
rock,
it.
Shattered.
They should have left that rock in the case.
Honestly, it was deserved, though, because Luke got to break the rock, and then the next person to break the rock was walk-on wide receiver Willie Suarez, who was the one that forced that fumble on the punt coverage. I mean, shout out to him. True freshman walk-on, first action, does that. And I think he got a snap on offense. It's like a walk-on dream come true.
It's Charleston Southern, and we're 2-9. Leave the rock how it is.
But that was awesome.
It's tough seeing. Yeah, good stuff. Like I was saying, just got to have some good vibes, hopefully, after something like that, and ride off of whatever kind of momentum you can try to get mentally going into a rivalry game like this. And the Gators got to hope that they find some juice. It's a night game. There's going to be a good amount of people there. And Doak Champions Club is sold out, baby. Champions Club sold out. It should be a jam-packed Doak Campbell Stadium on Saturday night. I'm just trying to build something up here to where Florida State could make this a competitive game, but still in the end, though, I don't think Florida State's winning this one. It's pretty interesting, though. We're in the same total points here. I got Florida winning 31, FSU 13. So still on the same total.
So you just copied me and took 3 points off.
No, I did not. I always had Florida State scoring 13 points. I did have to make sure I figured out what Florida's score is going to be so it doesn't go over our parlay. So,
because he's been known to do that.
I have done that, yeah. But yeah, that's it for me. That's it for me. Go ahead, VZ.
Yeah, I won't keep this too long because I'm so ready to stop talking about this football team.
And talk about your basketball team.
Not even that.
Hofstra
Hofstra's a solid team. I don't want to hear Hofstra slander.
Community College and Temple.
But no, I'm just tired of talking about this football team. The only other stat I will say is Florida has only scored more than 27 points 3 times this season against Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Samford. Everything else, they've been pretty much between 14 and 27. I still think they'll win comfortably. I don't think the final score indicate how much Florida actually dominates this game, because that is kind of what I'm expecting. And I'll take the Gators 27-10.
27-10. Okay. It's low. that wouldn't be terrible.
Like I said, I think the final score won't indicate. Like they might double us up in yardage.
Yeah, stats might look a little bit different there. So yeah, that's sadly the last score prediction of the 2024 season. Sadly, this time last year, gearing up for Florida State getting its potential 13th win or 12th win of the year, then getting ready to cover an ACC championship up there in Charlotte. And then we were leaving Charlotte and doing our instant reaction, talking about whichever team they were going to be facing in the college football playoff. Although on the side of my head, though, I was saying need to maybe keep an eye out and see what they're going to do with Alabama. Sure enough, all hell breaks loose, and Jordan Travis not being out there is to blame, supposedly, from Kirk Herbstreit and the ESPN folk and that college football playoff committee. Anyways, though, that's a wrap on Florida State 2024. Let's jump into some basketball real quick to end off this show, and then we'll head on out of here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we've had
7-1 basketball, baby.
7-1, best start since the 2019-20 season. Picked up 3 wins since the last time all 3 of us were on a podcast over Temple, UMass, and Western Carolina. Western Carolina is the only of those 3 teams I'll say is a very bad team. They're undermanned, very inexperienced, and just overall bad team. Temple and UMass are 2 solid teams, especially analytically. And the second half that Florida State played against UMass is the best half they've played in 5 or 6 years. They really played so well in that second half against UMass, to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe this team does have a chance to surprise some people. And the analytics are starting to catch up. They're up to 57th in KenPom, the highest they've been in years. They now have projected win total of 20-11. So they're starting to rise up, but they also haven't played anybody that the casual Florida State fan will go, oh, that's a good win. They'll have that chance next week. 2 road games at LSU for the ACC SEC Challenge on Tuesday. That'll be an interesting one because LSU's been a weird team. They beat a talented Kansas State team, but they also haven't really played that well overall. And then at NC State for your first conference game next Saturday, which I'm planning to be at if NC State's communications people will get back to me. That'd be nice. But yeah, it's the team. The big thing is the team is fun, and Florida State hasn't been fun in a long time. You know, they already have their new thing with the belt to ass thing, and they carry a belt into every game. You know, Florida State football has the hammer, FSU basketball has the belt. I think it's hilarious. I think it's a great gimmick. And the team clearly loves being around each other and wants each other to do well, and you're seeing that with the energy they play with on defense. They're holding teams to under 27% from the 3-point line. That never happens with a Leonard Hamilton defense. And you know, they're sharing the ball like I've never seen from a Florida State team. I think 5 or 6 players had at least 2 assists in each of the last 2 games. I mean, they're sharing the ball at will, and they're having a lot of fun playing with each other. And it's a lot of fun to watch. I can't lie. I'm having a good time watching Florida State basketball again.
Yeah, they've been getting after it early this season, you know, to bounce back with the 4 straight wins after that Florida game that we talked about on the podcast last week. I think that showed a tremendous amount of growth and, I mean, response to adversity. And, you know, in the past, we've seen Florida State go to some of these in-season tournaments and, you know, struggle with the opposition there. But really, I mean, I think it's just the way that everything's kind of being spread around for this Florida State team because, you know, obviously you've got Jameer Watkins, but he hasn't had to be in that necessarily superstar mode, you know, like we saw sometimes last year during ACC play. They've been able to spread the wealth a little bit and have a lot of different guys getting involved on both ends of the floor. So really, to me, I think it's maybe the depth that has been very impressive about this Florida State team so far because you've got so many guys that are able to contribute. You know, a lot of transfers that just got in, but also true freshmen, you know, getting in there as well.
Yeah, I don't know how I forgot to mention Malik Ewan, who is the most fun I've had watching a center in a long time. He's got such a rare skill set. When the shots aren't always falling, he really struggled to start the season, but his passing and footwork are unlike anything I've seen from really any center in college basketball. Now he's got a long way to go defensively and on the glass, and needs to be a little better about making the shots that he creates for himself. But he really does have a special skill set. And when you compare that, or when you combine that with Jameer Watkins, who's still doing Jameer Watkins things, that's a pretty dangerous 1-2 combo. And then you get some sprinkles in from Daquan Davis and Chandler Jackson and Boston Holt and Taylor Bobo and all these other guys. And you're right, the depth is there.
Yeah, and obviously you expected big things out of Ewan coming in from junior college. And, I mean, he's, I think, been exactly as advertised with his ability to impact the game on the offensive side. No, struggled a little bit here and there, but especially last night coming out and getting, I think, the first 10 points of the game.
He had 10 of the first 12.
Yeah, you're seeing him assert himself, get a little bit more comfortable, and, I mean, should just continue to get better and better here as Florida State gets closer to beginning conference play.
That's what we like to see. That's what we like to see right there. I forgot to mention this too before we pop out of here. I missed out on a topic from our friend Urban Meyer. He took a shot at Florida State. It's UF week here, but was talking about what Billy Napier is doing there with the Gators. He said, "I'm going to tell you something. I'm a fan of Coach Napier, and here's why. I don't know him. I met him once or twice." They've been obviously really struggling, but the one thing they have not done, like the team in Tallahassee, is quit. They have continued to fight. So Urban Meyer had to get his shot in there. You like Urban Meyer, Dustin? Are you an Urban Meyer fan? Is anybody a fan of Urban Meyer?
I hate that man. Like capital H hate. Like
Did you see the?
I was going to. Are you going to bring up the Mike Vrabel thing too? Because I was just about to say
that was hilarious.
What happened? So Mike Vrabel coached under Urban Meyer. I forget where. You might know.
At Ohio State.
Oh, it was at Ohio State. So he coached under him, and then they ran into each other in the NFL. And Coach Meyer goes, "Do I know you from somewhere? You look familiar." And Vrabel goes, "I was your coach. I've coached under you at Ohio State
for 2 years,
and we're in the same division as head coaches." Because this is when Urban was with the Jags. Like, how is that possible? Between that and the Aaron Donald story, I don't think Urban Meyer has a single brain cell.
I'll be honest, I do have that thing where if I meet someone new and I'm getting introduced to them, there's a good chance I'm going to forget their name. But if I was around them for 2 years, I think I'd, maybe be able to remember a syllable or something.
And just no, there's only 31 other head coaches. You'd think you would know your peers.
And they have that meeting where all the head coaches go to it, right? They take that iconic photo.
And they play each other twice a year. Granted, Urban got fired probably before they played twice, but still.
Urban Meyer, man, he is a weird creature. I just thought it was interesting. He's over here taking a shot at Florida State. I mean, no shocker there. I mean, calling the team and saying that they quit in Tallahassee. I don't know. I just like to see a Florida State. And if there's like I was saying earlier when I was doing the score prediction, find some juice, find anything, man. Find something to just get you pissed off, Pat Payton. Just get pissed off for once, man. Just have something in there, some little thing, or get this coaching staff that's left riled up a little bit. But Urban Meyer is being Urban Meyer. I don't know. I always hear, too, of just where he's going to be coaching next, where he's going to be, and which bar he's going to be putting his hand up people's skirts. But hope it's not here in Tallahassee. That's for damn sure. All right, let's end off this show, everybody. It's Florida State versus UF week, baby. I will be up there at Doak Campbell Stadium. We'll have an instant reaction. Hopefully not after too many beers. If it is, then you're going to have a really entertaining instant reaction, and VZ might have to run the control center here on StreamYard. But we're going to have an instant reaction for you guys after the game, so stay subscribed on YouTube for that. Before you leave, hit that like button. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with us this evening. Enjoy the rest of y'all's week. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys, and we will talk to you guys on Saturday evening. Peace.